Greetings, it's Ian from RTO here. Welcome to Pick and Mix, where you just don't know what you're going to get. Well, you do know now. We really have a sort of rota. And this week it's mixing it up, which means we're going to look at a producer. And this one was a request, like most of them are. And this one's for Tom Allom. Now, Tom Allom has produced some great artists and been involved with Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, Crocus, Loverboy, Def Leppard, Kicks and Rough Cut, to name many. Allom is also a member of the Music Producers Guild. Now, before he sat in the main desk, he was a sound engineer. And he worked in 1969. He did his first bit of sound engineering, and he did it with Siren Kevin Clone in 1969. He was the sound engineer on From Genesis to Revelations. He was also the sound engineer on Black Sabbath's Paranoid and Master of Reality. So there you go. That's before he even became a producer. So he learnt his craft working with Black Sabbath, doing Black Sabbath and Genesis. But he first picked up the banner as a producer in 1973. And what an album to start your work on. It's Bursting at the Seams by the Strawbs, which has got the great Down by the Sea and Part of the Union. It's a real strong album. They must have been really impressed, because I asked him back in 1974 to produce their album Ghosts, which has got the great Ghosts and Light the Life auction on. They must have been really impressed, because also he went and worked on Hero and Heroine, which is it's my favourite album, as you know, which has got the lovely Autumn and Lay a Little Light on Me. So also in 1974 he worked on an album called Martin's Cafe by Magna Carta. Now, they're a progressive folk rock band. Get your teeth in, Ian. And their album, Martin's Cafe, has got some good tracks on it. The title track's pretty cool. And Roll On. We move on to 1975. And he's back with the Strawbs again. And for the No Madness album, which has got Too Free and Absent Friend, which are classic tracks. So that was the only one. That was the other one, the only one he did in 75. And in 1976, he produces this album, Jackpot by Jack the Lad. Now, Jack the Lad are again a British folk rock band from the northeast of England. And there's two tracks on here that are worth listening to, are Amsterdam and Walter's Drop. Also in 76 he worked with a band called the George Hatcher Band and their album Dry Run. Now, the George Hatcher Band are an American southern rock band formed by George Hatcher. Quite successful, pretty good band. If you like southern rock, you're going to like this. Two good tracks on here, Lucky Guy and All I Want to Do. He must have done a good job, because in 77 they invited him back to do their next album, Talking Turkey, which has got a great track on it called Sweet Little Rocker and the Cadillac. 78 he goes and produces a live album for Pat Travers, Live Go For What You Know. It's a great album. If you love Pat Travers, you love that live album. It's a pretty good live album. 1979 he goes and do some work with the Tourists. Now, the Tourists, of course, feature Dave Stewart and Annie Lennox, and the album Reality Effect. This has got their big hit cover of I Only Want to Be With You, and All Life's Tragedies is a great track on there. 1979. He works and produces the live album from Judas Priest, Unleashed in the East. Now, we all know the story of this one. When this was recorded, Rob had some throat things, so they went into the studio and re-recorded the vocals, and I think Tom did a great thing. People say it's not a live album, but if Rob wasn't happy, but you don't think they've been re-recorded, because Tom did a great job on that. 1980, first year of the 80s, he goes and does the next album for The Tourist, Luminous Basement. Great tracks on here. We've got Weekdays and Don't Say I Told You So. Really classic songs from The Tourist. A band that we must do some work, rank their albums. They're pretty good. 1980, he works on one of the most iconic heavy metal albums ever made, and that's British Steel. From The Priest. Okay, it's got Breaking the Law and Living After Midnight. Forget them tracks. The tracks on here that are absolutely killers are Rapid Fire and Grinder. Absolute killer tracks. Okay, he also then goes and works with a band called Nantchuck. Now, these are another great southern rock band, and the album Long Way to the Top, formed in Jacksonville, same area as the great Lynyrd Skynyrd. Some great tracks on here. Rugburn is brilliant, and Turn the Radio On. Go and check them out if you like your southern rock. And the next album he does was the first album by Def Leppard, On Through the Night. Rocks Off and Wasted. Cool tracks. Well, then he also does the self-titled album for Doc Holliday. Great band. The great Ain't No Fool and I'm a Rocker. Absolutely killer tracks on that album. 1981, he's back with The Priest and The Point of Entry. Yeah, the one where they're all out in Ibiza living it up big time. They managed to put out an album. And two outstanding tracks on there, of course, is Heading Out to the Highway and Desert Plains. A classic. He goes back with Doc Holliday for Doc Holliday Rides Again, another good album. Good Boy Gone Bad and Southern Man, great tracks. Now, then he goes and works with a band called Kix, spelled K-I-X. They're an American glam band, self-titled. I'd never heard this album, so I popped it on, and it's all right. If you listen now, it's very 80s, but The Itch and Contrary Mary are pretty good. Also, in 1981, he goes and works with Whitford St Holmes. Now, Whitford, of course, is Brad Whitford from Aerosmith, and Derek St Holmes is in the Ted Nugent Band. They released the self-titled album in 1981. Great album. It's very underrated, and two great tracks on there are Sharpshooter and Every Morning. 1982, he's back with The Priest and a bit of Screaming for Vengeance, which of course has got Helium Electric Iron. You've got another thing coming. Just great metal anthems. Then he works with a band called Wolf. Now, a Wolf are a heavy Swedish heavy metal band, and their album was Head Contact, Rock and Roll, Shock Treatment and I Sold the Devil are really good tracks. 1983, he works with a band called Cobra. Now, they're a Swiss-American hard rock band. Just long time. It's got a very 80s thing. First Strike's the name of the album. Travelling Man, absolutely killer track, and Fallen Angel. Also, he works with the Mighty Crocus, another band that I love, and their album Headhunter. I love the title track Headhunter, one of my favourite tracks, and Ready to Burn. They're just absolute killer tracks. We're now moving up into 1984, and he's back with The Priest for a bit of Defenders of the Faith. Free Will Burning and Sentinel, sublime and classic tracks. Then he goes and works with another great little American band called Y&T, or as my mate called him, Yuck and Trash. Lipstick in Leather, a great track. And then She's a Liar. 1985, so we're right in the middle of the 80s sound. And he goes and works with Rough Cut on their self-titled album Rough Cut. It's an okay album, but the tracks aren't quite good on there. Cut Your Heart Out and Black Widow. Then he starts working with a Canadian band, Loverboy. And the album Loving Every Minute. Friday Night, big hit for them, and Too Much Too Soon. Then he's back with Judas Priest for Turbo. Quite controversial because it was but they used I think this album, people don't like it, I like it, I really like it, and I love Turbo Lover and Locked In. 1987, he produces the Priest Live album, which is an absolutely killer album. I love that album. You know, the tracks off Turbo sound great live, and Tom did a great job on that. Then he goes and works with a band called Urgent. They were a very short-lived American melodic rock band, and the album Thinking Out, it's not my real cup of tea, and the only tracks I really like on this album were I Can't Take It No More and Extra Extra. 1988, he's back with the Priest and Ram It Down. Not a particular favourite of mine in the Priest collection, but I do like Heavy Metal and Blood Red Skies. They are the outstanding tracks off that album. Also, he worked with a band called Jet Boy and Feel the Shake. Now, Jet Boy are an American hard rock band. They're alright, very, very 80s. Sound. Fire in My Heart and Hometown Blues are pretty good. So, 1989 now, and he works with a band called The Works. Now, they're an AOR hard rock band from Canada, from out of nowhere. Again, they're all right and nothing special. Love Is a Dangerous Weapon's okay, and Miss Perfection, they're okay. And he takes a bit of a break, well deserved, I think. And he comes back with in 1993 with an album called Heart of an Angel, From Ashes and Diamonds. Now, this band was formed by ex-Bauhaus member Daniel Ash, so a local boy for me. And I have got a copy of this, but it's not a proper copy. It was on a cassette that someone done for me, and I put it on to I transferred it to a CD, and I've never seen this album, so if you know it's out there, please let me know. And it's a good album, and my favourite tracks off that are Believe and Stand Together. Then we whistle on till 2009, when he goes and works with Judas Priest again on the Touch of Evil album, which is a live album. Absolutely amazing live album. It's got some of the newer tracks on it, and he's done a good job. 2016, he produces another live album for Judas Priest, Battle Cry. Absolutely killer album. And then he sort of co-produced with Andy Sneap the most current Judas Priest album for 2018, Firepower, which has got Firepower and Rise in the Ruins. Won't be the first time we'll mention this on this producers thing. So that's basically the mainstay of what Tom Allom has done. So we got to the bit where I've got to pick my 5 favourite albums that Tom Allom has produced. So here we go. So my number 5 is the 7th album by the mighty Crocus, Headhunter. Yeah, it's great. And you got Mark Storace on vocals, Ferdinand von Arb on the guitars, Mark Kohler on rhythm, Chris von Rohr on bass, and Steve Pace on the drums. Headhunter, just classic effort. 80s metal, driving guitars, I just love that. Eat the Rich, killer track. Some great drumming on here. Screaming in the Night, great guitar solo on that. Ready to Burn, that gritty rock track, it's just brilliant. Nightwolf, love the vocals on this. Now Mark had such distinctive vocals there. It's a great track. Stand Up and Be Counted, White, Din and Russian Winter, great tracks. Yeah, this takes me back to when I was 16, 17. I just love this album. It's a bit dated now, but who cares? It's just a killer rock album. Okay, coming at number 4 for me is from 1984, the 6th album in Rock We Trust from Y&T. Dave McCartney, Joey Elves, Phil Kenmore and Leonard Hayes. There was this album of the time, but there's just some great tracks on here. Rock and Roll's Gonna Save the World, typical 80s rock, but who cares? Life, Life, Life. Definitely MTV fodder. Masters and Slaves, very guilty pleasure. I Keep Believing You, a ballad played on MTV a lot. Breakout Tonight, Lipstick and Leather, my favourite track, absolutely killer. Don't Stop Running, All Your Love Is Driving Me Crazy, It's a Liar This Time. Y&T never set the world on fire, but again it just takes me back to my teenage years. You know, as my mate called him, yuck and trash. He was never a great fan of Y&T, but hey ho. Okay, my number 3. We go back now. This is my favourite Strawbs album, of course. Hero and Heroine from 1974. Dave Cousins, Dave Lambert, John Halkin, Chaz Cronk, Rod Crooms. Wonderful Autumn. The Mellotron on there is just killer. Sad Young Man, the electric piano is just amazing. Just Love. Shine on the Silver Sun. The brilliant Hero and Heroine. Midnight Sun. The Congos on that are good. Out in the Cold. Round and Round. Lay a Little Line on Me. He's just stunning. Very underrated album. An absolute killer. I love that album. My number 2 then is the debut album from Def Leppard, On Through the Night. Joe Elliott, Steve Cart, Pete Willis, Rick Savage and Rick Allen, who was only about 10 at the time, something like that. Some great tracks on here, of course. Rock Brigade, Hello America, Sorrow Is a Woman, It Could Be You, Satellite, When the Walls Come Tumbling Down, Wasted, Rocks Off, It Doesn't Matter, Answer the Master and the Overture. Absolute killer album. Still, I think it's one of my favourite Def Leppard's albums. Absolutely, you know, these are all teenagers and they cranked out a great album. But my favourite album that Tom Allom has ever produced it is a Judas Priest album. It's from 1984. It's the 9th album and it's Defenders of the Faith, which had Rob Halford, KK Downing, Glenn Tipton, Ian Hill and Dave Holland. Free Will Burning, Fast and Furious, Jawbreaker, very naughty song written by Mr. Halford. Rock Hard, Ride Free, some great Glenn shredding on that. The classic Sentinel. Love Bites, which is a little bit different, but I do like it. It's got a great guitar bit with KK and Glenn. Eat Me Alive, another thumping track. Ian Hill's banging out a great bass line on that. Some Heads Are Gonna Roll. Bit of an anthem. There's nothing wrong with that one. Stay, Night Comes Down. It's okay. Heavy duty. It's a bit cheesy, but hey, this is 80s heavy metal. Defenders of the Faith. Yeah, okay, the last two tracks are a bit cheesy as hell, but it's got some absolutely killer tracks on it. Played a lot in their shows over the years, and that's why it's probably my favourite of Tom Allom's albums. So there we go. There's a bit of Tom Allom for you. Any of these albums you think are great to go in there? Of course, Battle Royale. You know what you got to do? You got to go find the video and pop your nomination in there. Don't forget, always have a backup just in case someone has suggested that album. So that's all for today. Except we've got live stream tonight at 8 PM British Summer Time. But we'll be back tomorrow where it's live album ranking day, and we've got a great American funk heavy metal band called Living Colour, and we're looking at their live albums. A band that I've seen twice, and I can't remember who they supported. How bad's that? And then we've got a new album tomorrow, and it's the most anticipated album for a long time. The new album from Blur, The Ballad of Darren. So, good day tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all tonight on the live stream. Bye for now.